There is this migration that happened prior to the white man coming to discover the land. Prior to the white man coming to Africa to even know if there is anything existing as a continent called Africa or a cable land, there were Africans, there were brothers of ours, sisters of ours that walked through the length and breadth of the whole world. And then this species of people discovered that land and they were there. And that is why even Columbus himself, when you read through most of his studies and the rest of them, you discover that there's some parts that either him or someone who was moving with him said there were Africans already in the land. There were Africans present in the land before he discovered that there was a place called America. Now I want us to get right into this short discussion which explains further, because I think enough of all this argument between Africans and African Americans saying no. The thing that is significant is that these persons are Africans. These persons are Africans, but they were there. They took themselves there. It wasn't the boat of the white man that took them there. There were Africans that were taken there by the ship through slavery, and there were Africans that were original. They were present there before slave trading. Before the white man even thought of how to come to Africa to come pick people, there were Africans already in that land. Now, why do you think that this history is somehow buried? Because they do not want us to have our rightful place. They still want us to be people. They still want us to see ourselves as people that were not in existence before them.
The majority of African Americans that lived here were brought over here.
No,
That's
not economically sound.
What do you mean by it's not economically sound?
So what I'm saying is, people were already here. Does it make sense to go all the way to this other continent to bring people on a boat when we know that half of your stock is going to die? You wouldn't do that.
So how many people do you think were brought over from Africa on slave ships? Because that definitely happened.
I don't believe it.
What do you mean you don't believe it?
I don't believe that story. You think this whole land was empty? No, there were natives here.
Right.
But today we're taught that natives is some other people. No, natives are the melanated African being that has come here since the beginning of the Mali Empire. We're talking about 14th, 13th century. We had already come here from Africa.
Really?
Oh yeah, we had already come here. You know, maybe people were brought over as slaves, but I don't think that the black people in America came from Africa on slave ships. I believe the people that were here were slowly conquered. First they got the East Coast, and then they started spreading out west little by little, conquering. And when you conquer a tribe, what do? You enslave them. They're POWs. Right?
Okay.
That's what you do.
But I'm still confused. There's a great history of slave ships being brought over from Africa.
History is his story.
Right.
What about my story? Is my story not valid?
But if you do 23andMe on from out
23andMe?
Well, that's
either way. If you take black people here in America and you do their DNA sample and it point back to Africa, what does that say? It says black people in America are Africans. Now the argument is, were we brought here or were we already here? Did we bring ourselves here, or did the white man bring us here? You see, when you say the white man brought us here, what you're doing is you're removing our ability to transport ourselves. You're saying, oh, we didn't know anything about boats. That's what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to tell me that we didn't know that there was a landmass here. Go look at the primary source. You got here, we met black people. When we got the Caribbean, we met black people. You think the Caribbean is right next to America and they weren't in America?
That's interesting.
Doesn't make any sense. I mean, when you go and you look at real European history, right, would believe that if they took a bath, it was bad.
Right.
They didn't even want to change their clothes. They thought that dirty was purity. When we talk about the Moors going into Spain and into Europe, the stories in the history, our history, says that when we met the so-called Caucasian, he was sleeping in the barn with the animals, and we told him, no, you can't sleep in the barn with the animals. We taught them etiquette. We taught them running water. We brought that technology to Europe. Now, if we brought the technology to Europe that saved Europe from the Black Plague, you mean to tell me that if we saved the white race, that we weren't already in America already? When we brought the technology, when Rome was dependent on Africa for food? Remember when the Black Plague hit Rome? The cause was one of the officials was stealing the grain that was coming from Africa. So there was famine hit Rome. If your source of sustenance is from Africa, how are you superior? You're not. You get your food from me. So if you get your food from me, who's more likely to travel this globe? Me, I'm the source of food. And that's the first thing you need to survive on this planet.
All right, people. Like I keep saying this here, I think there was a topic I talked about, the first Black emperor who helped in building the walls, the Hadrian walls, which it's not even there in histories, you know, the normal history, except if you want to know further, you dig into it yourself. Nobody will come tell you that. And this is how it is. No one will come tell you this until you've discovered it. These things are there. These things are there. It's just for us to discover further, to take our time, a little bit of our time and effort to get deep into things. Now, there were blacks that were brought. There is no doubt. But there were blacks that were existing before the blacks that were brought. If that makes sense, and I believe it makes sense to a lot of persons, that there were Africans who migrated themselves. There were Africans who discovered lands, who discovered nations, discovered kingdoms themselves. And that is why you see that we have Africans who are Indians, we are Africans who are Americans, we are Africans who are British, we are Africans, different tribes and corners of the whole world. There are Africans who are inhabitants of the land. Because the black man is the being that discovered almost every part of the world. Because the black man is the first. The black man is the original. The black man is the source. So now, what history wants us all to believe is that there were no Africans in America. Everything we own it. Everything we own it, but the painful thing is that we are the ones that are given the crumbs. We are the ones that crawl on the floor to go beg, to eat from the leftovers. Right? When originally we are the owners. Originally we are the ones who fed people from ages past. But the way things have become, it's so unfortunate that the rightful place of a black man, the rightful place of an African, because when I say a black man, I'm talking about African. There is no way you will be a black and you tell me you're not African. This is some of the mistakes that some African Americans, some Aboriginal African Americans are making. You are African, sweetheart, you are African. Because I do get some comments from some videos, no. Yes, you were there, but you migrated from here. Africa is not a joke. Africa is not what you see on your socials, on your medias, on your entertainment news and whatever. They tell you we are beggars, we need this, we need that, people are poor and the rest of them. These are the work of man. What you see are the work of man. That Africa do not have food to eat is the work of man. The wickedness of humanity. Because Africa was a place that had everything and still have everything. Does it not surprise you that everything that they need, they have to come down to get it, to get the source, to get the originals? Almost everything out there are adulterated, but when you come to Africa, the original is there. Does it not surprise you? This is the home of all home. Africa is a mother to all, and that is why the name explains the role of the continent in humanity. The motherland. Africa gave birth to everything. So you can't tell me you are Black American, or yeah, that's the name they call themselves. You call yourself to excuse the fact that you are African. Yes, to excuse that fact because you do not want to identify with a mother who is poor and wretched, who has never been poor. And even if she is poor at the moment, it's the work of man, the wickedness of man. A lot of Africans shy away from the fact that they were a lot of Americans, shy away from the fact that they were Africans. And this is why I thought of bringing this here. Yes, there is no doubt that there are Africans in America before Columbus himself discovered America. Now, it's also a fact that there were Africans taken by the ship. Now, the Africans that were there before the ones that came by the ship, you are no less, you are African. And it's not about saying Africans are looking for who to come call African. We are all Africans, sweetheart. We are all Africans. As far as you're Black, you go do your DNA, you see that you have the iota of African DNA in you. No matter how mixed you have become, you mixed with Indians, you mixed with whatever. I think I saw some young man who was saying that he's not African, he's Indian. We are confusing ourselves. Because while that migration was happening, there was mixture of species. Right? You migrate to a town, you mix with them, you pick wives, you have children. Yes, they have that species of Indian, but they are still African. And that is why they keep saying that the African DNA is a DNA that can never disappear. Because if you are African, you're African. It's gonna show that you are African. Anyway, I just feel that we should know this. If you are African, there is this connection with nature. So there will be no fear in moving to discover new things, in trying new things. And this is where you see some persons have this gift of communicating with lower animals. I think that should be another discussion for another day. But I think this is enough to explain further to us that there are Africans who migrated on their own and discovered the land before Columbus himself, because he himself stated that there were Africans in the land, that there are Africans everywhere, right? Now there are also Africans that were taken by the ship. All these are Africans. Long live Al-Kebulan, the motherland, the Garden of Eden, the origin of mankind. I just hope and pray that we get more into our history, get more into discovering ourselves wherever you are, whether you are in the motherland or you are somewhere else that has become your land, become your home. You just believe and hope that the unity we sought will be possible. The unity of every Black man, of every African on the surface of this earth, to what we were and how it was. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comment and thought there at the section, and I'll see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive. According to Two-Face, one African singer, he always say, one love Africa, one love. Bye for now.